Hey guys, Chris Dunn here, aka the Boogie Man. On this episode of Boogie Tech, we're going to put a straight axle under this badass 64 Comet. And we're going to walk you through step by step of how to install a straight axle into one of these cars. Now that's going to change from car to car to car. We're going to give you the basics to go by. I think you're going to like it, especially the guy that does it at home is really going to like it. So this guy brung us this gasser. His name's Mike Green out of Bakersville, North Carolina. He's wanting to get it ready for the 3-pedal race, which is September the 18th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. We told him we'd get it done for him in a hurry. This is already a drag car, which is, that's a big plus. It's already a drag car. It's got modern day struts and rack up under it, and we're going to, remove all of that, and we're going to put an old-fashioned straight axle. We're just going to start with the basics. First step is the look and the stance that you want. So basically what we've done is we have put wooden blocks here that we got in the shop, and we've got screw jacks, all right, that we run up. Actually, this is a good tip of the day. Here's our tip of the day I just showed you on the Comet. It's these little screw jacks right here, man. You can get these things from Amazon. You can go to your local junkyard, get them out of the wrecked cars. These things is the most handy thing I've ever had in my shop. I got on them a couple of years ago. I usually cut this off and I weld me a 1/2-inch nut, which is a 3/4 socket. And you can level these things, just anything you want to, man. But when you're building a car, you can level that car up or do whatever you want to do. This is a very cheap, easy way, and it's a very friendly jack. What we've done here is we put the blocks under it, we got our jacks under it, and we've set the rake that we want. So basically, he's about 12 inches on the rocker there. I wanted about 2 inches of rake. The customer liked the look of 2 inches of rake. So we're at 14 here. Now this is actual ride height. This is what the car will sit when she's on the ground. The suspension is loaded. This is ride height. That's what we're going for. So what we do after we have got the rake we want, the ride height we want, then we've got a tire here. And this is one of my tires, spare tires and wheels from the Boogie Man. And we basically then, we get our look. And we're going to get our center line. It's always nice to have the tire and the wheel that you're going to use. And he's basically got the same wheel, and we had to order him some tires because we're going to run these little Moroso tires that we like, the front runners. So basically, what I like to do is I move the wheel and tire around. Some class rules say you can only have 1 inch of extended wheelbase. So keep that in mind. This car here, we're probably going to be about 1.5 inches, but that's okay. So the look we want, or we like, is about right here. So we're actually going to move the front end forward about 1 inch, 1.25 inches. Now, the other part of figuring this out is now we've got our center line of our wheel and our tire. Now we've got our frame here where it goes. Now we know the rake we want. Now we got to figure out what axle do we need. Do we need a straight axle? Do we need a 4-inch drop axle? Do we need a 6-inch drop axle? Okay guys, so now what I'm going to show you, when you're putting a straight axle in, when we just talked about it, you got to get the takeout of the spring and the perch. So what I like to do is I've got a 4-foot level that I clamp up here and I clamp here. And what I do is you always want this shackle about straight or just a little tick this way, when you clamp all this together. So when the car settles, the shackle will swing out this way. I always put the shackle at the rear. Some people put them at the front. I prefer to put them at the rear. I believe it works better. We've got our level clamped on here, and that basically is simulating our frame. Now we can measure down to see what our takeout is. We go to the table, it's 10 inches. The good thing about these perches, and you're running a 2-inch axle, it's cut out 1 inch. So really and truly, if you hook here, it's 9 inches. So the takeout for the perch and the spring is 9 inches off the top of the axle. So now we've got this math. Now we've got to go shoot the math of what is the tire, what is the center of the wheel, and we'll take all that math and put it together, and it'll help us determine the drop axle we need. Now that we've got roughly the center of shackle to shackle, which we think is around 38 inches, and that's about what it is. And we was at 15 here, we was at 16 here, we're gonna go dead center, we're gonna call it 15 and a half, and that's gonna be really, really close. So now we're gonna grab our wheel and our tire, which I already know is 25 inches tall, even with a little, what I call free squat, meaning a little pushing down, which you ain't gotta get that precise. We're gonna call this 12 and a half inches. So imagine an axle going from one end to the other at 12 and a half. So we're at 12 and a half, and we're only 15 inches from the ground. So that only gives us a 3-inch opening between if we had a straight complete axle through here from the frame. Well, that's not gonna work. So now we know we gotta have a drop axle. A straight axle won't work. So now we gotta do the math to calculate, do we need a 4-inch drop, a 6-inch drop, and what drop do we need? But we do know a straight axle will not work here. What's the drop gonna be? So I'm gonna do the math and show you how to do the math, and you'll know exactly what the drop is. Okay guys, now we're at the whiteboard. We're gonna make this a little bit more simpler, I hope. A lot harder to explain it on the car, it's a little easier here. All right, so we're gonna walk through this. This is our frame. This is our car at ride height. This is how far our frame's off the ground, 15 and a half inches. Okay, that's the first measurement we've got to write down. 15 and a half inches is the space we've got to work with. Second measurement, 12 and a half. The center line of our wheel and tire is 12 and a half inches. So we're gonna take 12 and a half inches. We're gonna minus it. Now we got 3 inches. We have 3 inches in theory right now from our wheel to this frame's only 3 inches. And we have 10 inches of total takeout, because it is 10 inches from our spring to the center of the perch, which is the center of the axle. So now we got to get this to 10 inches. So what does that mean? You can either do a 4-inch drop axle or a 6-inch drop axle. Here's the kicker. I like a 4-inch drop axle. Okay, it brings me to 7 inches. You say, well, that don't fill up, that's not enough. The weight of the car. I always rather have the car a little high because I can remove leaf springs. This is a 6 leaf spring system. We don't need that many leaf springs. You never do. So I always let the car sit a little higher and start removing leaves. You know, you don't want to go no less than 3, but you'd be surprised just 1 leaf how much this comes down. But now you got to set the car down and let it settle. And now where we have 3 extra inches, we're gonna call that free sag. Once you set the car down, I promise you 1.5 inches to 2 inches is gonna come out of it. So you may be within 1 inch of your exactly what you want your ride height to be. You set the car down, let it settle, and it ain't quite the rake you want, take a leaf away. Let's recap this one more time just to make sure you understand. First measurement's 15 and a half, that's frame from ground. Second measurement, center of our wheel and tire we're going to use, which is 12 and a half. We're going to subtract them, we're going to get 3. All right, we know we got 10 inches right here, and 3 and 10 don't work. So we're going to add a 4-inch drop. The 4-inch drop's going to now make it 7. Now 7 plus 3 inches of free sag is going to be 10. That means that when this thing's done with no weight in the car, that thing's set up 3 inches taller. When you start putting the weight on it, she's going to settle, and you're going to be real close to your determined ride height that you want. We ended up with a 4-inch drop axle. The 4-inch drop axle actually in math is about 1.5 inches higher, 1 3/4 inches higher than what the car is right now. Well, it's going to settle. When you put the weight in it, it's going to settle. So shoot for that 1.5 inches, 1 3/4 inches taller, or even 2, because you always want to use, they make a 6-leaf deal that Speedway sells and a lot of them sell, and you want to use that because you can always remove the leaves and get the ride you want, because they come way stiff anyway. So normally I get them down to like 3 leaves. We're going to set this up, and what we're going to do after we get these all this put in here, then we'll remove a leaf to get this exact ride height that we want. First step, get the car up and the rake like you want it. Second step, figure out the placement of your wheel, which is going to give you the center line of where your axle's going to be now. Third step is figure out your spring height, take them measurements, and figure out your tire center right here, the wheel center, and calculate what axle you're gonna need, which is all math. Once this is done, we'll start installing. Whatever we can do to help the guy at home. You know, the guy that's got a fancy shop knows how to do this. We want to help you guys in this, doing it in your garage, out in front of your house, under your carport. That's what this channel's for. It's not for people that have their own shop and fabrication facilities. It's for you guys, the guys at home that go, man, I want to build me a gasser, but I don't know how the axle goes in there. That's what we're doing it for. So stay tuned for the future episodes, and together we're going to put this straight axle in this car. Chris Dunn, aka the Boogie Man.